Tell all you love that you love them so, because even if you do, they might not know, and one day we'll all be gone. Taste the wind, don't let it blow on by. Sing songs of love, let the music get you high, and when it's said and done, you'll know the sun will shine on.
I was strongly attracted to my dear friend Daniel in his 20s. Daniel knew that I'm gay. He knew I was attracted to him. And one day he called me into the room where he was sitting. He had a magnificent naked heart-on. He was offering himself to me. But I did not have sex with him. And later I explained to Daniel why I did not have sex with him. I told him I was very attracted to him, but I knew how changeable he was. I did not want him feeling ashamed and guilty after sex with me. I did not want him to feel bad toward me as his friend. I did not want him to feel bad about himself. I did not want him to feel bad about sex with me. Sadly, many men feel ashamed, feel guilty after they orgasm and come in sex with a man. I want any male friend I have sex with to feel good afterward about himself. I want any male friend I have sex with to feel good afterward about me. And I want any male friend I have sex with to feel good about our sex together. A special good memory. I'm very glad to have sex with any single, healthy, lean man who is attracted to me and to whom I'm attracted, if he has no shame, no guilt about making love with men. 9-year-old Billy goes to Sunday school. His sincere, kind teacher, Mary, loves all the children in her class. And this Sunday, Mary teaches Jesus' words, "Whatever you ask in prayer, you will receive if you have faith." Billy's dad is alcoholic. Billy's dad beats and curses Billy's mother most nights. And this Sunday night, Billy's dad is especially mean, especially crazy. He pulls out a gun, threatening Billy's mother. Billy prays with all his heart, "Dear God, stop my drunk dad from killing my mother. I believe you can." Minutes later, Billy screams when Billy's dad shoots Billy's mother in her head and kills her. Does Billy ever again believe what his kind, sincere teacher Mary says about God and Jesus? Does Billy ever again go back to Sunday school? Does his teacher Mary, when she hears about this awful tragedy, still believe the verse she taught her class that Sunday? Does Mary eventually stop believing in God herself as a loving, all-powerful parent God who helps all those who desperately pray for help? does Mary slowly come to see that much of religion, not just the Bible, not just Christianity, is feel-good, make-believe bullshit. Sadly, I, Don Schrader, I spread false advertising for God for many years. If Jesus actually lived, if he taught that God is a loving, all-powerful parent God who will help all who pray for help in desperate situations, Jesus was sadly deluded about God, about reality. No matter how well-meaning, no matter how sincere Jesus was, it just ain't true. Hundreds of millions of people for thousands of years have prayed desperately for help from starvation, cancer, addiction, tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, fires, floods, rape, family violence, war, and received no help. I wish we had a fair, loving, all-powerful parent God who helped all who fervently prayed for help. And I wish after death we would be together again with all our loved ones in a much better world. But I refuse to swallow feel-good, make-believe bullshit. I do not know if life continues beyond death. I strongly compliment hero of conscience Daniel Ellsberg. Daniel Ellsberg worked in the Pentagon, the headquarters for U.S. wars. But he woke up. He changed from a war maker to a peace activist. And during the Vietnam War, young people protesting the war inspired Daniel Ellsberg because they refused to go murder people in Vietnam. They inspired him to work to take action against the Vietnam War. Daniel Ellsberg spent many hours secretly photocopying top secret government documents in the Pentagon. Much information about the Vietnam War that the U.S. government had refused to tell the people of this nation. In 1971, Daniel Ellsberg gave this material to the New York Times and other papers to publish, to tell the people the truth. Daniel Ellsberg knew he might be locked up in prison for the rest of his life for telling the bloody truth about the war, the Vietnam War. And U.S. President Richard Nixon called Daniel Ellsberg the most dangerous man in America. A documentary video about Ellsberg's strong stand of conscience is entitled "The Most Dangerous Man in America." It's available on DVD to borrow free through interlibrary loan. Hero of conscience Daniel Ellsberg fortunately was not sent to prison. He died in his 90s in 2023. He wrote the book, The Doomsday Machine, Confessions of a Nuclear War Planner. The title again, The Doomsday Machine, Confessions of a Nuclear War Planner by Daniel Ellsberg. And it's in the Albuquerque Library. I urge every scientist working at Sandia Weapons Lab, at Los Alamos Weapons Lab, to read, or at least browse, that book, The Doomsday Machine, Confessions of a Nuclear War Planner. And I heard Daniel Ellsberg speak many years ago, I guess it was in the 1970s, at a college in Illinois. And I have a photo that I took of him. A man of conscience who changed dramatically from a war maker to a peace activist. We can wake up. We can change from our evil ways, as he did. Every one of us is capable of terrifying violence. Every one of us is capable of murder in a moment of insane rage. Every one of us is also capable of marvelous compassion and wonderful good. We need to always see the evil around us and within us, but we need to concentrate mainly on the good around us and within us. It's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. Violence is a terrible human problem. It's not just a male problem. Hell no. Violence is a terrible problem of both men and women. No one is born evil. If we think of persons who have hurt us the most and of persons who have committed huge, bloody atrocities, if I had suffered the childhoods they suffered, if I had suffered the poison influence they suffered, if I had not had the many people who have taught me, loved me, inspired me, I might have committed the same evils they committed with much help from each other. We can wake up. We can turn from evil to good. If you really want to eat healthy and live healthy, get rid of all the packaged, canned, bottled, slow, poison, processed shit in your home. Get rid of it. Clean out the cupboards. Clean out the refrigerator. Get rid of all that packaged, canned, bottled, slow, poison, processed shit if you want to be healthy. If you don't have it around, you can't eat it if you get the craving. Get rid of all fast food, all factory fake foods containing added sugar, artificial sweeteners, processed vegetable oils like corn oil, soybean oil, peanut oil, because these processed vegetable oils often have been heated to high temperatures, destroying many of the good nutrients, and bad stuff has been added. I have none of that shit in my one-room home. And never eat cooked fat. Cooked fat clogs up the blood, the arteries, the lymphatic system. Cooked fat often makes people fat. But eating only raw plant fats, flaxseed, pumpkin seeds, nuts, can help lose fat in our bodies, because raw plant fats have enzymes which cause body fat to be burned. Other good raw fats besides pumpkin seeds, flaxseed, nuts, avocados. I love raw plant fats. And get rid of any booze, any sodas in your house. If you want diabetes, drink the damn sodas. They're poison, slow poison. And no damn chips of any kind. No chips. If you want to be healthy, that's your decision. The Hopi man, Hoshivana, said, I just do not feel comfortable as a Hopi person that we should have to live off the misfortunes, or in other words, the losses of people who gamble. When we're growing up, we're taught to be helpful to other people. Joshavana says, to me, gambling is something opposite from that teaching. And he saw that gambling would be just another addiction for his people, the Hopi people, and all Native American people to deal with, in addition to alcoholism and drug abuse. The words of the prophet Martin Luther King Jr., our economy must become more person-centered than profit-centered. The evils of capitalism are as real as the evils of racism. Prophet Martin Luther King Jr. said April 4th, 1967, exactly 1 year before he was assassinated. He said, my experience in the ghettos of the North, as I've walked among the desperate, rejected, and angry young men, I have told them that Molotov cocktails and rifles would not solve their problems. I've tried to offer them my deepest compassion while maintaining my conviction that social change must most meaningfully come through nonviolent action. But they asked, and rightly so, what about Vietnam? They asked if our own nation wasn't using massive doses of violence to solve its problems, to bring about the changes it wanted. And their questions hit home, says Martin Luther King Jr., and I knew that I could never again raise my voice against the violence of the oppressed in the ghettos without having first spoken clearly to the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, my own government. Prophet Martin Luther King Jr. said, the nations of this world are engaged in the bitter, colossal contest for supremacy. I'm sad to say that the nation in which we live is the supreme culprit. God didn't call America to engage in a senseless, unjust war as the war in Vietnam. We're criminals in that war. We're called to speak for the weak, for the voiceless, for victims of our nation, and for those it calls enemy. So far, we may have killed 1 million of them, mostly children. What do they think as we test our latest weapons on them, just as the Germans tested out new tortures in the concentration camps of Europe? This business of burning human beings with napalm, of filling our nation's homes with orphans and widows, of sending men home from dark and bloody battlefields, physically handicapped, psychologically deranged, cannot be reconciled with wisdom, justice, and love. The words of strong truth from the prophet Martin Luther King, Jr. He said, I definitely feel that the development and use of nuclear weapons should be banned. It cannot be disputed that a full-scale nuclear war would be utterly catastrophic. Hundreds of millions of people would be killed outright by the blast and the heat and by the ionizing radiation produced at the instant of the explosion. Even countries not directly hit by bombs would suffer through global fallouts. And he says, all of this leads me to say that the principal objective of all nations must be the total abolition of war. War must be finally eliminated, or the whole of mankind will be plunged into the abyss of annihilation. I want my friends to open their lives and hearts to me, so I open my life, my heart to them, in conversation, in letters, and on this program. How can we expect other people to be open with us if we hold back and refuse to go deep and personal with them about our lives? The great violinist Itzhak Perlman was playing a concert, and as he played, one string on his violin broke. But he did not stop playing. He knew how to keep playing the piece using only the 3 strings he had left. And when the great violinist Itzhak Perlman finished the piece, he told his audience, the challenge of life is to make music with what remains. And that is the challenge of each of us, to enjoy life and to bless others with what we have left as the years pass. The main reason I have no teeth now, I was severely addicted to sugar shit. Ice cream, cake, cookies, candy, when I was a kid and in my 20s. Over 40 years ago, I stopped all that sugar shit. Yes, certainly, I wish that I had still all my original teeth, all healthy, with no cavities. But they are gone forever. I cannot grow new teeth no matter how healthy all the food I eat now. But even though my teeth are gone, I'm glad my body can still stay lean and healthy by eating only raw plant foods, by exercising, getting enough sunshine and sleep, having many friends, many hugs. And whenever you see my mouth missing all my teeth, remember how awful, how unhealthy sugar shit and other junk food is. Sugar shit attacks especially our body's weakest parts, whatever those happen to be. Both my parents did not have good teeth. My mother had all her teeth pulled either before I was born when she was 38 or when I was a small child. I'm not sure. If your parents had a serious weakness in their heart or their liver or their kidneys, and if you eat sugar shit and other junk food, you will probably suffer in that weak part. But if you eat and live healthy, you can prevent the problem even if your parents' bodies had those weak parts. The problem is not just the genes we inherit from our parents. The problem is also eating the same sugar shit, meat, dairy, other junk food that they ate. I strongly compliment Roman Catholic Archbishop John Wester here in New Mexico for his strong public stand against nuclear weapons. His strong public stand against nuclear weapons, even though many of his Catholics work at Sandia Weapons Lab or Los Alamos Weapons Lab. He has the courage, the conscience to damn all nuclear weapons. And I urge all religious leaders and other community leaders to have that kind of conscience and courage that the Archbishop John Wester has, to damn publicly all nuclear weapons, including Sandia Nuclear Weapons Lab and Los Alamos Nuclear Weapons Lab. The worst overpopulation problem on earth is not in India. It's not in Africa. It's not in China. The worst overpopulation problem on earth is in the United States. Why? Because most people here, not all, but most people here consume and pollute far more per person than most people in India, Africa, or China. Why make more babies? Now, if you already have kids, love and care for them and teach them by your own example to enjoy living simply, to enjoy living fairly in our world family of 8 billion people. Hating myself when I wrong someone does not make me a better person. We become better to other people when we sincerely apologize for wronging them, for doing them wrong, and then forgiving ourselves. We need to be a loving parent to ourselves when we do wrong. And just as we need to love and forgive others, we need to love and forgive ourselves, to start with ourselves, becoming our own best friend, our own loving parent. We all are more than the worst thing we ever did or almost did. Millions and millions and millions of people are touch-starved. Millions and millions and millions are seldom, if ever, hugged. or touched affectionately. Warm hugs can help blood pressure. Warm hugs can help heart rate, depression, and anxiety. I repeat, warm hugs can help blood pressure, heart rate, depression, and anxiety. Many reasons I drink no booze. Booze lowers the sex hormone testosterone. Booze makes fat pot bellies. Booze is high in calories, low in nutrients. I drink no booze. The greed-driven booze companies with no conscience prey on people's chemical and emotional weaknesses, regardless of the massive harm those booze drinkers suffer. I do not need booze to relax. I do not need booze to dance. I do not need booze to talk freely about life, to go deep with friends. I do not want to make it easier for me to commit violence against others. I do not want to make it easier for me to say things I may later regret. I drink no booze. I do not need booze to meet and connect with people. I have no brain cells to kill. Booze destroys brain cells. I have no money to waste. Imagine if all the money people in this country spend on booze and other drugs were given instead to help millions of hungry, homeless, sick children all over the world. And even if I would never get drunk or become an alcoholic, I do not want someone chemically or emotionally at risk of alcoholism to use my social drinking as an excuse for them to drink booze. So I drink no booze. The soil used to grow grain, to grow grapes, to make booze, could be used instead to grow healthy plant foods for hungry people to eat. I want to be as healthy as I can be, so I drink no booze. Drinking even some booze makes people less healthy. Booze is a depressant. And if you're already depressed, why drink booze and get more depressed? Booze does not take away problems. Booze makes problems bigger. Booze is slow poison to every cell of our body. Garlic is more powerful, more effective, safer than chemical antibiotics. And every day I eat raw garlic in my smoothies, blended smoothies. 3 or 4 cloves, not bulbs, but cloves, the divisions of a bulb of garlic, or more, depending on the size of the clove. Garlic is the most powerful antibiotic found in nature. It contains extremely powerful and effective plant chemicals that destroy bad germs. Garlic kills only the harmful germs in our body, but at the same time, garlic actually helps the friendly germs, the good germs that we need to be healthy. Garlic improves our intestinal flora and digestion, the good critters in our intestines. Garlic is a potent antiviral, a potent protector and cure for influenza and the common cold. It's also a powerful antifungal. But odorless garlic, do not take it because it's worth less. Garlic that has no odor does not help you. Don't waste your money on that. How would we feel if another nation overthrew our government and installed a brutal dictator who murdered and tortured many of us? The United States CIA overthrew the government of Iran in 1953 and installed the brutal Shah. His secret police murdered up to 60,000 people in Iran and tortured many more. And President Jimmy Carter, who preached human rights, hypocritically called the Shah our best friend in the Middle East, even though he was a mass murderer and torturer of his own people, many thousands of his own people. Why would Jimmy Carter say such evil crap about the Shah? The U.S. greed for Iran's oil and huge U.S. profits from selling weapons to the Shah. And never has the United States apologized to the people of Iran. And you wonder why many of the people of Iran hate this government? How would we feel? And in 1973, the United States helped overthrow the president of Chile in South America. And Chile was the oldest democracy in Latin America. And the United States helped to overthrow that democracy. And any politician, Republican, Democrat, Independent, who tells you that the United States supports democracy around the world, either he's lying through his teeth or he's stupid as hell. The United States has overthrown democracies and supported bloody, brutal dictators in dozens of nations all over the world under both Republican and Democrat presidents, sadly. And in Chile, the United States helped install the vicious dictator Pinochet, who tortured and murdered thousands of the people of Chile. I strongly oppose all nuclear bombs in all nations, not just in the United States. The United States has thousands of nuclear bombs, and the U.S. is the only nation that has atom-bombed cities. Israel has many nuclear bombs. And what if Iran and all the world's small nations would demand that the United States, Russia, Israel, and other nations who have nuclear weapons would to get rid of all of their nuclear bombs? Who gives the United States the right to dictate to the world, do as we say, not as we do? If we were most people in the world's smaller nations, would we trust the United States government? Hell no. How would we feel if another nation overthrew our government and installed a dictator who tortured and murdered many of us? And with Donald Trump, as of now, still running for president, he could torture and murder many of us who dare to speak out against the evil in this government, if he is elected. I want all the over 8 billion people on earth to be treated fairly. Hell no to the United States first. I do not pledge allegiance to the U.S. flag or to any nation's flag. The world is my country, and all people are my sisters, my brothers. We all need close friends. Having one or more close adult friends to confide in about the hell at home can help an abused kid not to abuse their kids many years later. One caring adult friend who will listen from their heart to an abused kid. Having one or more adult longtime friends who accept lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans persons can help them not to attempt suicide if their families reject them for being gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. Soldiers, crippled, blind, make homeless, murder kids and old people. Soldiers become pawns, robots, slaves, soul poison to commit mass murder, to follow orders with no conscience. Some soldiers bullshit themselves, saying, "I'm just following orders." The U.S. government hires and pays military chaplains to lie, to bullshit, to soul poison soldiers, telling them, God wants you to kill people when your government tells you to. I compliment the national organization Veterans for Peace, with local chapters across the country. Veterans who publicly damn war. People have wondered if I'm a hippie. Well, if you mean someone who is not dependable, Someone who is lazy and strung out on drugs? Hell no, I'm not a hippie. But if you mean someone who damns all war, if you mean someone who enjoys living simply, someone who enjoys being naked when warm enough, someone who likes long hair and bright colors on men, someone who openly enjoys sex and romance with more than one person. Yes, I am a hippie. I would not trade speaking, writing, and living my conscience for any high-paying job that would pressure me to shut up my conscience and my convictions. I would not trade living below the federal income taxable level to refuse to pay for war for all the money in the world. I would not trade mostly walking and often riding the bus for owning any luxury car, even if given to me free. I would not trade sunbathing many days, even in the winter, on my backyard small private Riviera beach if there are no clouds and no wind. I would not trade that for a free trip anywhere on earth. I would not trade my main food every day, my homemade raw smoothies with over 20 healthy ingredients, and eating much whole fruit, especially apples. I would not trade that for the highest price restaurant meals in Albuquerque. I would not trade going to bed most nights between 9 and 10, getting up at 6 or so, for late night parties and getting up late. Something I never knew years ago when I used to stay up late is that each hour that we sleep before midnight, hour for hour, benefits our health more than the hours we sleep after midnight, hour for hour. I would not trade my food and flower garden for fancy furniture in any mall. I would not trade my 9.5 by 12 foot one room with 6 windows of marvelous sunshine for living free in a huge luxury mansion. I would not trade the precious wisdom many people have taught me about living simply, living healthy, living compassionately. I would not trade that precious wisdom for all the diamonds in the world. If we give a damn about the climate crisis, if we give a damn about saving water, about water pollution, about saving forests, if we give a damn about cruelty to animals, about all hungry people worldwide having enough to eat, if we give a damn about our own health, stop eating all meat and dairy, cheese, milk, ice cream, eggs. As bad as using cars and planes, eating meat and dairy is one huge cause of climate chaos. Far more people can be fed from the same amount of farmland that grows grain, seeds, nuts, greens, vegetables, fruit for people to eat, than by growing crops to feed cows and pigs and chickens, and then people eating those animals. Watch this powerful video, documentary, Cowspiracy. That's one word. Cow, C-O-W, spiracy, S-P-I-R-A-C-Y. Cowspiracy, one word. Available on DVD, free through the local library's interlibrary loan. And I was told it's also on Netflix. Cowspiracy. My parents ran a cattle and hog market in Illinois where I grew up. And sadly, I worked part-time for years in that cruel business, a cattle and hog market. But I stopped eating all meat, all dairy, many years ago. We can wake up. We can change. An earthquake in a small town in El Salvador destroyed the church and killed hundreds under a landslide of dust and rubble. And survivors quickly said, God loves us. He left some of us alive to rebuild the church. Did God let hundreds die in agony, but kept alive some survivors to rebuild the church building? What crazy bullshit. Is a building more important to God than many human lives? Was it God's miracle that the earthquake did not kill everyone? People believe such weird stupidity to keep from facing the truth. There is no God to answer our desperate, sincere prayers. But for many adults, they don't want to hear that, of course. They're like children who've been told by their kind parents that Santa Claus is real, and the children believe it, and they do not want to find out the truth. There is no Santa Claus. Heaven is the hope of living loved ones and being with them. But we have no proof. Heaven is real. I don't want to bullshit myself that heaven is real when I have no proof. No matter how much I want to be with all my many loved ones in a better world beyond death, I have no proof. And for many of you who knew me many years ago, when I sincerely, very sincerely, believed in God, believed in heaven, I now apologize to you for spreading false advertising for God. Alan in California used music to help patients in hospitals and homes. Alan visited one man who had been a doctor, and this man spent his days in bed. And when Alan went into this man's bedroom, two caregivers were spoon-feeding this former doctor in bed. He had not spoken in 2 years. But when Alan started to sing this man's favorite songs, this man's eyes opened wide. He began to sing the words along with Alan. And everyone in that room had tears in their eyes. Gradually, Alan stopped singing, but this man who had not spoken in 2 years kept on singing alone and laughing. Music we love can heal our hearts, can open our hearts. We need beautiful, heart-touching music. My friend James in prison, he and I have written each other many dozens of letters since we began in 1994. And now, 66 years old, James has been in prison since before we started writing each other almost 30 years ago. He looks forward to his release on May 24th of this year. James enjoys feeding the bunnies, the ground squirrels, the birds in the prison yard. And James wrote this to me in a letter. He said, I got to feed my bunnies, ground squirrels, and birds, and had a great time watching a young guy from Chicago hand feed a rabbit pieces of cornflake cereal for his first time. And to see this pure, childlike joy on his face as the rabbit carefully took each piece of cereal from this man's fingers really made my heart smile. Maybe it will slowly teach some guys to be gentle and loving with animals and each other. When our loved ones die, we never get over the loss, but we can learn to live with the loss. We will never be the same after our close loved ones die. And every day the loved one is still gone, and we're here. It's much like having our arm or leg amputated. Never the same as it was before. But the best memorial to our dead loved ones is to be a better friend, a wiser friend, a more loving friend to the living because of the love and the lessons from our loved ones gone. I thank you for listening and watching. I strongly thank Mark, Eddie, Travis for helping me many dozens of times with the cameras and the other controls to produce this program. And if you see me on the street or anywhere, I invite you to stop me and talk if you want to. My phone number is 505-243-0634. 243-0634. Good night.
Tell all you love that you love them so, because even if you do, they might not know. And one day we'll all